My lords, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back once more to Transport Fever 2. This episode we're starting outside our little freight yard in Chase, where we've got several lines now up and running, shipping goods in and out of Chase throughout British Columbia and beyond. Obviously we are shipping in oil from all the way out from Alberta, just outside of Calgary, so this is seeing action all across this current map. Now, starting here, because I have made a few changes just in and around this junction work here, I was discovering, while I was just letting the game play through on 3 times or 4 times acceleration, that occasionally, or frequently, the trains would start to trip over one another. They'd be blocking junctions, they'd have head-on collisions, and things would just grind to a halt around here. So, I've reworked it. We've now got an extra set of tracks coming in and out of the main freight yard, and I've also reassigned some of the platform assignments over here as well, just to try and distribute the trains across each of the platforms a little more evenly, and so far so good. It seems to be handling okay. Now, on a similar topic, I've reworked the freight line through British Columbia itself. As you can see here now, this is quad tracked, and even as much as 6, 7 and 8 tracks in places around the various stations, because again what was happening is our very long freight trains, they were often stopping at signals that were causing their rear ends to overhang a switch. So the train couldn't move that way, and if that train was also overhanging the next switch, then the 2 trains were basically stuck, and it would bring everything to a grinding halt. So that's all now been reworked. I've put a few extra tunnels in this area as well, like this one here for example. Another tunnel cutting through here, and I think the biggest change over here is bypassing the whole NDB Armstrong through line. Some of our goods lines can now cut through this bypass, through by Sorrento, and then merging up here. So for example, as we can see on their way now, our oil trains are taking this new bypass route, and that's keeping them away from some of our other lines, and it's resulting in much higher throughputs and also much fewer hiccups and snags as the game progresses. So I have tested this reasonably extensively. I ran the game for about 30 minutes or so at 4 times acceleration, and I didn't notice any major problems, so touch wood, we should be okay. Now then, given that we are in Chase and we have a few industries in and around Chase, I think it's not a bad idea if we start supplying this town here, Sorrento. Now it requires bread and bricks, both of which we have. We have bread here being produced at the processing plant just outside of Chase, and our bricks we have available over here just outside of Sycamus. Again, this has been reworked. As you can tell, I've doubled the platforms, and that now means each line that uses this station, whether it's dropping off or collecting, now has a dedicated platform, because this was also causing some issues when the game was running without intervention, so that's also been changed. I did a lot of it, well, I did it all off camera, primarily because it was a lot of trial and error to get it to work how I wanted it to work. So I do apologise for that, but it does seem to be working now, and I'll try and keep any future tweaks and modifications to the lines on camera, so to speak. Anyway, let's revert back to Sorrento. So we need to get in some bread. Now that should be relatively straightforward. We do have the bread being produced over here, as discussed a few moments ago. Now, it's probably not valid or really needed that a train supplies bread this short distance, especially because that's going to add more trains on this little, which is already, well, it's not little, it's quite extensive, yeah, but it's going to add extra trains on this already very crowded junction. So I think what we'll do in terms of the bread for Sorrento is just have it shipped in via a road vehicle. So we need to have a connection down towards Chase. We'll use the newly unlocked modern streets, and we shall go for what we have. What are these? Are they a mod? I guess they... Oh, it's just variable speed limits, I guess. Anyway, we'll stick to vanilla for now. But we will, I think, go for a... extra... No, just a large country road. And we'll allow a bus lane as well. What the heck, we'll also have electrified tram lines. Probably not going to need them, but let's treat ourselves, shall we? So the simple connection, so it's just going to run up into the hills here. Almost like swerve past our freight yard and then in towards Chase. So let's see here. Obviously the food is being produced over on the far side of our freight yard. But we do have a connection in terms of this little road here. So I think what we'll do is we'll just connect in just over here across the front of the steel mill. Okay, we can't quite connect in there, so we'll have to just do a little swerve to get the connection there. We'll upgrade this little road here as well if possible. Yes, we can. There we go. And then of course we want to remove the traffic lights there that have just been produced. So we're going to need now a truck station at the food plant, aren't we? So let's produce one of those. I think we'll start off small in terms of platform numbers. We'll go for 30 meters, however, and we'll just have that up out of the way, bordering the food processing plant like so. And then we want to connect it in to the existing streets around here. Nice and simple there, nothing too taxing. Might upgrade these streets while we're in this area. So let's do that. Or at least we'll do the ones that we can. Obviously some of them aren't allowing us to upgrade them because of reported collisions. So we'll do the ones that we can do, and the rest we'll have to just leave for the time being. Obviously pressing shift, you can upgrade smaller sections of the road for greater fine control, just like so. However, there's no point in having a little bit in the middle surrounded by the lower quality road, shall we say. So we'll ignore that and we'll keep that little stretch as is. Okay, so that's the Chase Central Station. We'll rename that, and this will be Chase Food Processing. If we could spell it correctly. There we go. Now we can set up... No, we can't set up the line because we need to put the delivery point in over here in Sorrento. So, buildings, we want an unload point. So our food needs are all distributed towards the... What's that? The southern, I believe. Yes, southern portion of the city. So we'll put the unload point somewhere like that. And then the trucks can loop through the city before returning on the return journey to Chase to pick up another load of food. So now we can set up the line. So we want to go from Chase Food Processing to Central Street. As we can see, the game's opted to loop the trucks around quite nicely automatically, so no interventions can be required there. Pick a colour that most resembles a food, and we'll do the usual setup for the trucks, which is fully loaded, 30-second max wait time. And just so there's no chance of them accidentally picking up something from one of the other industries or perhaps from our freight yard, we will specify that they're only going to be loading food while they're at Chase. Not sure if they do have the connectivity to intermix their products, but just to make sure, we'll rule it out like so. So now we can rename this, and this will be food delivery, because it's being delivered to the city. And this is Chase to Sorrento, like so. We do have a road vehicle depot nearby, just here. So let's go ahead and buy some vehicles, cargo vehicles. Which ones can we use for this? We can't use the side stake truck, so it's going to be the tarpaulin trucks. And I think we'll go start with 8. And we'll see how that does. Colour them the same colour as the line and get them assigned. There we go. So that's that, or that will be that taken care of once it's had time to filter through and have an impact. As we can see, this actual road that we've just been constructing is being used by the private residents as a connection between the two cities, so that's going to help them grow somewhat, which is excellent. Now the other thing we need to get over here are some bricks, as we can see. Now I've got half a mind to actually ship these in on a little ferry service, given that the construction material plant in Sycamus is relatively close to this lake or river here. I guess, yes, it is a lake. And obviously Sorrento does sit on the lake's edge as well. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to utilise the waterway, and that'll keep traffic off our rail lines, which is always a bonus as you get towards a later game. So let's go ahead. Hop into the harbour screen here. We want a cargo harbour. I'll say we'll go for large. We're only going to need one terminal. It's only the bricks that we're interested in handling on the lake. Now obviously as we can see, it's going to do some awful terrain modification here. But hopefully that can be addressed after the construction is completed with some smoothing, manually using the smoothing tools, but we shall see. Just to make sure, we'll set it a little ways away from the town of Sorrento. That way we've got enough time and space to deal with this terrain modification. We also want a harbour here, and I think here we will go for 2, and eventually I may even opt for 3 out here, simply because it might be worthwhile shipping over the bread and the fuel that Sycamus requires via the lake as well. So let's put the harbour down. We'll put it like that, and then immediately, so we don't forget, because we do want the extra platform, let's build a 3rd large dock. We can put it there, so we now need the landing alongside, like so. So that gives us 3 docks there for our ships. Now let's do the terrain modification, because that is rather hideous. Let's see what we can do with the blending first of all. It is taking the edge off somewhat. Let's head down to the one what's going to be serving Sorrento and try the same thing here. I think what I might actually try to do is, if we flatten a large area or larger radius, if you will, around this new harbour, and then it gives us more room to blend out as well. And as you see, that's doing far better effect overall than just straight up blending. We've got this weird artifact just along the front there, but easily fixed like so. Okay then, so now we can get a street connection along the front here. A little bit closer there, just so we have that. I know it is connecting, but if we can have it looking flush graphically, that'll be even better. Although it looks like it's not going to have it, so maybe if we just use... How does that look? It's not the best, but I'll live with it, I think. And now we want to connect in via the road network up into the town of Sorrento. And I think just something like that will be more than adequate. We're also going to want not a train building, a truck station here. And again, we can go for the single platform this time. As discussed, it's only going to be handling bricks, so there's no need to really make it any larger than it absolutely has to be. So I'm going to set it perhaps there, and then going to immediately expand the cargo loading area as much as I can, like so. We've unlocked the Junkers Ju-52, which we'll have a look at shortly. Now, the reason I've expanded that is because if we're having large ships bringing their bricks, and if the ships happen to be fully laden, then they'll soon swamp the default size platform. So making it that little bit longer should cut down on wastage. Anyway, let's just now see what we can do with it. We'll do the same sort of trick there, where we flatten out a larger area before blending it out with the surrounding terrain. Just like that. And that makes it look a heck of a lot better if you ask me. Okay, there we go. I think I'll actually allow the trucks to turn around here. There's only going to be one line in here anyway, so it's not going to interfere with anything else while they are turning around. So we'll leave that as is, and then it's just we don't need a bus lane out here. Yes, just a connection like that. And then we want a drop-off point for the bricks, and they're obviously located along the northern edge of the town. So go for a building, unload point, and we shall have this one unload there. And then what I'd like to do, if we can do it nicely, is actually have this rise up. We have to remove a building or two, like so, and hopefully that will encourage the trucks to loop this way before heading back to the harbour for their next collection. So that's that. I think, yes, we do need a, what do you call it, a road depot, and we'll put that here. Even if it spawns traffic lights at its entry point, it's not going to affect anything, so that's absolutely fine. And we'll set up this line now. So this is going from Sorrento North, which will be renamed in due course, into Green Street. So obviously the trucks, as we can see, aren't opting to do what I'd hoped they would, so that's going to require a bit of manual intervention. So a single waypoint down there will allow us to then guide the trucks around like so. This is going to be red. Usual sort of system now for the trucks, as we all know. Fully loaded. Bricks, there we go. And we'll quickly name it up. So that's bricks delivery for Sorrento, and that's taken care of now. Let's go ahead and buy the trucks. They will be running empty for a little while. That's okay. We can use the side state trucks here, and I think 8 will be enough to start us off. Put them on the line. So they're going to run empty for a little while. Sorrento Port, I think we'll keep, but we'll call it Cargo Port. And then this will also become Sorrento Cargo Port as well, indicating it's all part of the one complex. Over here we need to get our connections sorted out as well, so let's go ahead and do that and see what we can do over here. So we want country roads. So let's see, can we get up there for a direct connection without an intermediate delivery service? Does that provide direct connection? Indeed it does. That's excellent. We're also going to want to connect into the town of Sycamus as well for the eventual delivery of food and fuel, although that's not going to be for today's episode. But if we put the connection there already, at least then it's taken care of for the future. And just tweak the landscape around here just a touch. That's fine. That's quite a steep climb there, as we can plainly see. But I think we should be okay. Let's see here. How does it look? It's got a little, well, it's got a very strange... In fact, if we get rid of that and then connect in, that should be a little bit smoother, although it's now saying too much slope. Okay. In fact, yes, that is quite hideous of a slope, isn't it? If we go that way, it likes it. It is very steep, but that's okay. We're not going to have any buses running down here, anything, I don't think, so I can live with that. Eventually we will need a truck station out here to handle the bread and the fuel, but we'll do that when we get those set up, which, as I said, won't be in this episode, so we can disregard that for now. Quickly rename this Sycamus Cargo Port, and then we don't have a shipyard out here on this lake, so we're going to need one of those as well. So shipyard, where do we want the shipyard? Let's put it on this little peninsula here. It's a bit in the middle of nowhere, but it will do. And again, let's just see what we can do with the terrain here, just to smooth it out a little. That's better. And now we can actually set up the line to haul the bricks from Sycamus over to Sorrento. So new line. We are heading from Sycamus Cargo Port to Sorrento Cargo Port. You're hauling bricks. Fully loaded if possible. Now, ships. How long do we want to say maximum stop time? 40 seconds, 60 seconds, 40 seconds? I'll go with 40. This is the first time we've done it for a ship, so it's a bit of trial and error here. And then we can always tweak the timings later on if they're not having enough time to completely fill up, or if they are filling up very quickly and hanging around unnecessarily. So we'll go for 40 for the time being. And this will be bricks, shipping, Sycamus to Sorrento. It isn't a round trip in terms of carrying goods anyway. There we go. Let's purchase, I'll say 2 ships to start with. Cargo ships. We'll have the Schaffhausen. They have the largest capacity. So we'll get 2 of those. Colour them the colour of the line, and away there you go. And we'll see what happens here. Hopefully this should now kick up quite a bit of production, as it's now supplying not only Vernon, but also Sorrento. Which in turn, that's going to have a knock-on effect on the quarry over in Lumby, which is supplying this stone, because they're now going to start calling for more stone. So it's all a good, positive knock-on effect down river, so to speak, and if you'll pardon the pun, after just playing about on the river, of course. Well, it's actually a lake, but there you go. Just quickly inspecting the lines from above. As I said, this is where we were having issues before, with trains blocking one another and causing almighty traffic jams with nothing being able to move. Fortunately, everything looks to be flowing relatively smoothly. There's obviously going to be a few times where they just have to wait for clearance, but that's understandable as long as it's not a permanent blockage as we were getting before. So that's excellent. I guess we've made our first bread deliveries over here now. 6 of 55. And we do have a bit of bread on the platforms for the trucks to collect. This is going to up the wheat demand here, similar to the bricks over there for the stone. So what we might have to do is bring in a second wheat factory. The one here at Salmon Arm is ideal, because we could have a very easy, simple connection to the freight line without any issues whatsoever. Or we could increase the number of trains running from Armstrong. We also have this farm down in West Bank, but that's probably not going to be used in this playthrough, I shouldn't think. It's a bit out of the way and it wouldn't be very logical to bring that into play. Okay, so that's a few things done in British Columbia. We've got Sorrento supplied with bread first of all, and hopefully soon bricks. We have our first few bricks on the ship ready to go. Obviously it's going to take a while for all the production to kick up and filter through. As you can see, this is now almost close to the upgrade section here. So that should hopefully upgrade quite soon. As we can see here at the moment, our stone haulage trains aren't making full utilisation of their consist. However, with this looking like it's about to upgrade in the very near future, that should change, because this should start kicking out more stone for collection. So while it is advisable to not run empty, I don't think we're going to sell any of these wagons at this point, because it's very likely they are going to be needed in the not too distant future. Now I'm just going to head over into Alberta, because a few changes have been made over here as well. The primary change is the road haulage that has taken the wheat over to Irricana Freight Interchange has been scrapped, and instead, as we can see here, we have a little diesel hauling service, and that's a double-headed diesel. That's the Alco, and that's just hauling the wheat over the short distance into the freight exchange. Again, as you can see, they do have a few empty wagons on the back, so we'll keep an eye on that, and we can always fine-tune their consist length if needed. I added a third train onto the British Columbia oil freight, as we can see, and that's been running now for 33 years. I've double-tracked a lot of the Alberta passenger service out here. If you remember, that's the one that runs from Longview, Black Diamond, Bragg Creek, Priddis, and into southwest Calgary. So a lot of that has been double-tracked, and I've also put in an express service that runs from Black Diamond to southwest Calgary. That was the most popular in terms of destinations when I was checking the final destinations for our passengers at each station, so that's up and running. Obviously that bypasses the town of Priddis entirely. And here's one of the trains here. We'll have a quick look at this. As we can see, it is profitable, which is good. So this is just running the 424 Atlantic with 2 coaches. Nothing too extravagant or fancy, but that's the fastest train outside of the MILW that we had. And I didn't think this service warranted such an expensive train, so I went for the 424 Atlantic out here. And so far so good. What else has changed? I don't think anything else did change out here. I've done a bit of platform assignment changes in Priddis and over here in southwest Calgary. So these stations have expanded somewhat, and I've just balanced out the incoming and outgoing trains to avoid them tripping over one another as frequently as they were during testing. And again, so far so good. Other than that, nothing else has changed over here in Alberta, but I just wanted to make special mention of the few changes that were made off camera during my testing phases. Calgary and her 4 districts, as we can see, they are starting to grow quite considerably now. Oh, sorry, there is another change. I've added a few extra road connections and bridges across the rivers here, just to increase this value here, the private transportation destination value. The more of them you can provide, the more growth your cities are going to experience, so that's helped grow them. Calgary is now pushing over 700 residents, as we can see, and it's fairly well supplied in terms of its bread and bricks, which is great. The only downside in Calgary is currently the value for the emissions, which we can take a look at a little bit later on in the future. So nothing else has changed out here in Alberta. I am thinking about doing what I did over here with this oil freight line and having a station outside the oil well and either dropping it off to be on for either drop it off for onward collection at the Irricana Freight Exchange, or having a direct connection into this freight line here, so it can just take it itself directly to northeast Calgary. And I think we'll do that right now. That shouldn't take too long, and we'll finish the episode on that note. So let's get this put in place. So we want a cargo station. We only want 1 platform, I think. We'll go for 320, and of course we want high-speed tracks. And I'm going to put it about there, but facing a much more logical direction, like that. Okay, so now we need the road connection, otherwise it's not going to actually see any production out here, so let's give it the road connection it's going to need. There we go, and just to finish it off, we'll connect it into there as well. Not necessary, but it's done. So now we can decide, do we want to drop off there for intermediate pickup for onward delivery, or do we just go straight shot into Calgary? I'm going to say we go straight shot into Calgary. This is also proving a little bit busy from time to time, as we can see with trains waiting. So if we can avoid that in its entirety, then it's going to be better for the other services in this area. So we'll go straight shot over to Calgary. So let's do that. Have I got enough room here to loop? Yes, I have. Going to loop this around and bring it back in like this. And then here's our double track. So rather than magically flip around at the station, they will now continue on that way. Just for something a bit different and a bit more realistic. So we're going to have level crossing there. I think it's more logical if we actually just had a tunnel under the road for now. So if we keep completely flat, will that be enough to give us a tunnel? It will. And then we can emerge out the other side immediately. There's no point extending the tunnel any more than absolutely necessary. There we go. Stretch it out just to pull out that gradient as much as possible. That'll do. So, despite what I said about not stretching out the tunnel any more than needed, we've done completely the opposite and stretched out the tunnel quite a distance, but never mind. So now we just want to connect in, and I say we connect in over here, and then we can bypass this entire junction and hopefully keep things flowing quite smoothly out there. So where does the oil train drop off? So it drops off on this platform here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is just quickly pause it. This bit, just rework it so it doesn't cross over back to front. Back to the tracks, please. There we go. So just like that. There. And then if we put a diamond slip switch just here, that's going to make all our services very happy. And then, so we want, let me just check here. So the oil train, as is currently using the middle track. Well, if we swap that over, so it's using the outer track, and then our British Columbia long-haul oil train uses the central track, and then we can just, from say here, put a flying junction over all of this to meet up to that. And that reduces its impact on all other services nicely. So let's just quickly swap these two around. So after, so that's your, is that your outward journey? Let me just see here. So after Irricana Freight Exchange or Freight Interchange, I'd like you to head into northeast Calgary via that signal there. Yep, and then the British Columbia, rather than using that signal, there you go, that's, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted it to do. So that's all sorted. So then we want a flying junction over all of this, so let's first of all branch off as soon as we can. Speed's fine. And then we want to start climbing here, because we're going to aim for a bridge over all of this. And we want the iron bridge for the increased speed. So we're going to have bridges over bridges over bridges here with the looks of it, but that's okay. Keep level. How are you going to do with that other track over there? So you're going to need to come up a little further to bridge this track here. So we can bring you up once again. Hopefully that's going to be enough. The bridge looks a bit bizarre, but if you don't look at it, you'll never know. So just ignore it. Keep straight. Yes, there you go. That's cleared that nicely. Keeping straight and flat. And then from here on out, just, where are you? Swoop down into there. Probably don't want the bridge to be that excessively long. So what we'll do instead, we'll now switch to earthworks, and then from here on out it can all be earthworks into that connection there. There we go. So that's that. So now we can double track this. Like so. And our oil train at present is heading to Irricana down the outer track here. So what we probably want to do is actually delete this a little. Actually separate these, perhaps say back there, and this line will come over this way and then connect in to the opposite side. So let's see if we can do that, and if we can get it to connect in at the same place near enough, that'd be even better. So like so. Will you do it? Let's see. Come off. No, not not like that. Not at all like that. I want to avoid the interaction with that line there. I might need to come back just a little further, I think. And branch off here. Let's try this. Just a touch more just to clear these tracks underneath. Now come off. Stay straight. And then you can head down into there. Will you do that nicely? It's almost there, isn't it? It's going to do it. It's just going to be a little bit awkward about it. But that's okay. So it's got a bit of a shimmy in the bridge, but it is what it is. And then we're going to do it now? Yeah, there you go. So this is all going to be one way. Like this. Obviously the return track is also one way, but the opposite way. So let's get all this signaled up, and then we can rearrange our trains. So rather than heading it into Irricana Freight Interchange, you're going to be coming straight out to Airdrie Oil Well. So let's do that. So I've done it a little backwards, if you know what I mean. So the trains loop around to head into the station, but that's fine. It's neither here nor there, really, in the grand scheme of things. There we go. And we can have a couple of signals heading down this way into this junction here. We probably want to get rid of that signal there to avoid any potential overhanging on this bit of junction here. Everything else should be okay. So yes, it's bypassing the British Columbia oil freight train. So what we want to do now is the crude oil freight Irricana to Calgary. We want to manage this line. So you're no longer going to Irricana. Instead, you're coming here. So you're going to north, east, so you're going to Airdrie. So it's a bit backwards, but it's fine. It's going to work okay. Just make sure that's all set up. Should be, but just to be safe. There we go. So then, after you leave Airdrie, let's make sure you're doing the right thing over here and not interacting with the British Columbia oil freight train. You are on the way out, but that's alright. It's the way in that concerns me, and everything looks tickety-boo. Yes, that's what I want. That will work just fine. So let's just quickly rename this from Irricana to Airdrie. There we go. And then, unpause it. All these trucks running this line, we can sell them. And then the line itself we can delete, which is that one. There we go. That should immediately dump all of the oil over to the train station, which it has done. And that should help make... What the... Oh, it's a bear. That should make that a little bit more efficient. So, as I said, now that that's all done, I think we'll end the episode here. I hope you've enjoyed it. Again, I apologise if it's, you know, you feel like you've missed out by not seeing all the various little tweaks and changes. Some of them were quite extensive, not just little tweaks and changes, to the junction work off camera. So I do apologise for that. But as I said, I wasn't sure how well it was going to go, and I fear it could have been... I mean, it turned out relatively well in the end, but it did take me quite a while, and it would have probably spanned 2 or 3 episodes in full, and it's one of the things that could have been a little bit frustrating to watch, because I was making all sorts of nightmarish decisions throughout. So yes. But yes, I hope you enjoyed this episode. We seem to be making a nice bit of progress. Oh, we unlocked the Junkers, which we've not looked at, so I must remember to check that out at the start of the next episode. It should be in a couple of days' time. If you have enjoyed the episode, go ahead, hit that thumbs up button. Any comments and suggestions, obviously leave them down below. I do read them, and I try and reply to all of them where possible. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, all that remains for me to say is, as always, you take very good care of yourselves. It's ta-ta for now.